Good morning, viewers, and welcome to Vodacom Business's Fast Forward series. I'm your host, Jiroshan Naidu, and I have the pleasure of hosting all of my wonderful guests today I've joined online, as well as my special guest, Lucanio Zahela. So, before we get into the topic, just to let you guys know, the Fast Forward series is basically a series of webinars that Vodacom Business that will be hosting to educate SMEs about different types of technologies and how they actually fit into your business today. With that being said, this webinar today is actually about cybersecurity, and we want to highlight how important it is for SMEs to actually understand what cybersecurity means and how distressful cyber threats actually are as well. So before I kick off into introducing our guest, I just want to call out some really important scary facts as well. So just to start off with some of the facts, 97% of SA companies encountered network security encounters in 2024, with 91% of them experiencing malicious code execution or unauthorized access attempts onto their network. Human error committed to 57% of cybersecurity incidents for SMEs. Phishing accounted to 80% of the reported cybersecurity incidents, with 65% of medium-sized organizations falling victim to these attacks. 70% of users reuse passwords, which resulted in an increase in vulnerability in medium-sized businesses across the country. And as of last year, SMEs lost 48.9 million annually due to cyber breaches. Now, here's the crazy part. Only 19% of South African companies feel adequately prepared to defend themselves against cybersecurity threats. Now, with these stats, I think what we also want to do is really understand where a lot of your businesses are in, their journeys. So with that being said, we also have some poll questions that we're going to be asking today. So the first poll question that we do have is an awareness check. So we want to understand, how confident are you in your business's current cybersecurity measures? The second question that we have is a little bit more around the knowledge around cybersecurity. So we want to know, what do you believe is the biggest cybersecurity threat in SMEs today? We then want to understand priority in terms of what's your priority within your business. So which cybersecurity area would you like to improve in your business? Question 4 is basically a little bit more around a product gauge or understanding, what type of solutions you feel you need in your business. So which of the following cybersecurity solutions does your business currently use? And the last question is more around insights to understand why you don't have certain cybersecurity products. So if you're not using cybersecurity solutions, what are the main reasons why? So these are our poll questions. And with the poll questions, and putting together those scary stats, today's session isn't just to protect you against that prince that has $50 million to donate to you, but it's also to protect your business against any malicious intent and harm, not only for your business, but also for your customers. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the guest speaker today. Now, this man's a man who makes me feel safe whenever I'm around him or even when I see him. He's Vodacom's big brother who makes sure that our customers as well as our staff are safe and well protected against any cyber threats. So without any further delay, let me hand over to Luke Sukanyo, who can take you through cybersecurity and cyber threats today. So welcome, Luke, to the show.
Thank you, Jay. I don't think I've ever had such a wonderful introduction to myself.
I think Luke
really appreciate that.
Slightly late. He'll be on shortly. But while Luke's joins, guys, I think what we also want to really highlight today is, you're not alone on this journey of actually trying to understand how to go about learning more about certain cyber, security threats and attacks. Vodacom Business has also recently launched something called our VHub advisory, which is a one-on-one basically advisory service, which is free, where you basically just need to register on our VHub website. And once you register on our VHub website, you're then able to actually get one-on-one advisory help from an advisor who's specialized in different types of technology. So I would advise that it would be great to have you guys actually go out and register on this platform so that you can actually get an additional bit of information and a better understanding around different technologies, how it can actually be implemented within your business. So we'll also drop the website in on the chat so that everyone has access to it. But without further ado, Luke, let me hand over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jay. Really appreciate that wonderful introduction.
Yeah, no,
And,
a wonderful man needs a wonderful introduction. And we know that you're going to keep all of our SMEs safe in South Africa today because they are, the heartbeat of our economy and also the heartbeat of our country. So we know that we're in good hands with you. So thank you, sir.
No, thank you, Jay. Again, I just want to confirm if my screen is up and running with the team. So I just want to introduce myself. So my name, as Jay said, I'm Lucanio Zaila. I'm the executive head within the Vodacom business cloud hosting and security team. So I head up the security team. Been at Vodacom for around 4 years now, but I've been in the industry for about 20 years. So I think what Jay was his stats that he mentioned earlier on, I think they're very important, right? So when we look at the stats, or when we're thinking about these stats, so don't just think these stats are for corporate companies or public sector. These affect everyone, right? So from your corner shop, spaza shops. I've seen spaza shops been hit by cybersecurity. So there's no I'm too small to be part of a breach or an attack, right? So I think typically what I've noticed is that when people think of hackers or cybersecurity, they always think about some kid in a hoodie, a black hoodie, sitting in some basement typing very fast. But that's not what cybersecurity is about nowadays, right? It's organized crime, right? So they also have these types of workshops or webinars where they try and see how can they improve their strategies and how to gain access to any type size business. So I think if I were to leave with anything today, no matter your size, right? Cybersecurity is your right, and I think we as Vodacom, we try and build our solutions to cater for all businesses. So I think I'll just jump straight into it, right? Especially when it comes to the challenges that SMEs are facing in South Africa. So I'll just kick it off with ransomware. So obviously, in the session today, there's different people. Some people might know what ransomware is, so apologies to those, but some might not, right? Or might not be familiar with what ransomware and phishing is. So I'll just try and explain these words as well. I think when you look at ransomware, so before, I think back in the days, we used to have a virus. So you plug in a USB stick, and then your laptop will have a virus, and you'll typically need an antivirus to clean that laptop. So that was just malicious towards your device, your end device. So it started there, it stopped there, right? But what ransomware is, I would say it's a virus, but now with a different intent. So the intent here is to hold you at ransom. So your machine, for example, your file system gets encrypted, meaning that you cannot access your documents or your spreadsheets, anything like that, until you pay some sort of ransom fee. So now it was no longer about malicious intent just to disrupt your business. That still exists as well, but ransomware focuses on more for you to pay that ransom, and then once you pay it, sometimes they do unencrypt your files and you have access to those files, and sometimes they don't, right? They'll just want more money. So I think it's very important for companies to understand the effects of ransomware. So, for example, I was talking to one of my customers earlier this month. So they were saying that in the environment, they store everything on a server, like a file server. So that file server has everything: documentations, invoices, everything that the company contracts, everything that that company relies on to do their business. So the problem with that is that that is just one single source of failure, right? So if anything were to happen to that file server, that business would be down. So if those files were encrypted, that business would cease to exist, right? Because they don't have backups of those files or documentations. Even if they had backup, they would keep the backups in the same like a second server or a tape drive, which is outdated, right? So where I'm trying to get to here is that we need to be aware that the cyber criminals are always looking for ways to try and access these types of companies, right? So, and typically what you'll find is that these servers that I'm talking about are outdated, right? The SME might not have an IT team that keeps checks of the latest updates. It could be I've seen some still using servers from 2003, or using Office XP operating system. So some of these are just some of the challenges that SMEs need to be aware of, because if you lose a certain a machine in your environment, that could stop business for a week or forever, right? And I think another important element when it comes to cybersecurity awareness is USB drives. What you'll find is that when a user uses a laptop, so that laptop, they could use it for work during office hours, but then after hours, they use that laptop or even a desktop to do personal things, right? They want to maybe download movies, music, etc., and they'll just plug in they'll just plug in a USB drive onto the device. That can also bring these types of viruses and ransomware to the corporate environment. And then I'll talk about phishing, and I've got examples of phishing in later slides. But basically, what this is an email coming from someone trying to impersonate, whether it's your CEO or your sales department or your HR department, trying to trick you to click on something or download a malicious file. So typically what you'll find is that it will send you to a website where it's asking for usernames and passwords. So, and I think other entry points of these types of attacks, you'll find it in scamming emails. They might have fake invoices that need to be paid, and it's always urgent. These fake invoices, and I think the way it's increasing now, right? It's WhatsApp. You'll find that there'll be a link that says SPA has some sort of special that please share with the rest of your family or share with as many people as you can. But as soon as you click on that, you'll find that it's asking for your details, or it's asking for you to download something onto your machine. So I'll get to when you go through our products, what you can do to be safe from these types of challenges. Another one is secure remote working. I think I've already covered this one, but so we have staff, right? Especially with hybrid working now, whereby 3 days a week you work from home, or 2 days a week you work like in the office. Some people might be working from a coffee shop or the airport. So and then what you'll find here is that for them to connect back, the easiest way for them to connect is to use the public Wi-Fi. So the key thing about using public Wi-Fi is that you don't know whose Wi-Fi that belongs to. So, for example, I can go to McDonald's, for example, and I can set up a Wi-Fi, and I can call it very fast Wi-Fi, right? Um, the typical human being is just in our nature, right, to see that, and it's free and it's open. I'll click, I'll connect because it says very fast Wi-Fi. I want to connect to a Wi-Fi that's very fast, and I connect. But you don't know what I'm doing in the back end, right? I might be sniffing the network. I might be just, so when I say sniffing the network, so basically I mean I might be sitting there just watching what you're doing, just intercepting your traffic, watching what you're doing, what websites you're doing. Might even install a key logger, which means that I'm capturing all your keystrokes, whatever you're typing on your keyboard. You might even go to your banking or your corporate sites, and I'm watching all of that, right? So it's very key for when we talk to our users or even ourselves to try and avoid free Wi-Fi's if you don't have some sort of VPN or protection that will protect your Wi-Fi. And lost laptop with no password or no encryption. So I think the key thing here is that when we lose your laptop, it's very important to ensure that at least your hard drive is protected, because you don't want our users to expose what company data is on these laptops. So it's very important. And I think when it comes to passwords as well, it's always funny that we're logging into plus 20 different systems or websites, whether it's banking or Facebook or your personal email. So it's very hard for people to remember these passwords. So what they'll typically do is that they'll use, I think Jay mentioned earlier on, the password sharing, or using the same password for multiple systems. So if a hacker can access one of those systems, which means that if they use the same username and password for your other systems that you have to log into, there's a high chance of them accessing these other sites. And then one that's not talked about enough is third party access. So what do I mean by this? So in your organization, you would typically have maybe yourself as the owner. You might have someone in the finance department, but you might need someone that does your bookkeeping for you, or does your tax for you, or does anything, right? Or even maybe an IT guy that has access to your systems. But what we found now is that, and this is increasing at a rapid pace, right? Is that you might have all the best security in your environment, but the third-party access or the company that's giving you third-party services, they might not have security that's adequate on their devices, right? So what you'll find is they'll connect to your network with the laptop that maybe isn't updated or has vulnerabilities. So because now they are inside your network already, it means that the bad guys can actually target that specific third-party individual, and they might have access to your environment. So it's very important, which is similar to just a normal physical access control. It's very important when we're working with third parties, we ensure that we limit their access and to where they have access to. It's very key. And secure cloud. I think as more companies are moving towards storing information or working with the public cloud providers, it's important to understand where are people storing company data. So you'd have legitimate applications that the company might use, but then you also have the free ones. That people use to share information. So the key thing here is that when you're sharing information on the internet, right, you need to ensure that you're sharing it in a sanctioned, private type of a cloud setup. Because if that if I'm sharing, for example, financial information of the company, right? I can't be sharing that on Dropbox, right? It doesn't make sense for a corporate company to drop that on Dropbox. You can if you want to, but for me, it will make sense to use one that's being sanctioned by the company itself or by your security providers, and also blocking these, right? Because what you might find is that you might be blocking USBs on the laptop so that users can't copy stuff to the USBs, corporate stuff, but they might be able to access or upload company information on these freely public cloud providers. So it's something that we need to to tighten our security when it comes to this. And then secure internet. So this one I think has been going on for a long time. So what I mean by secure internet is, especially now with the increase in SD-WAN, so secure defined WAN access. So typically what used to happen, if a company has multiple branches, so you'd have a head office. So head office would have the firewalls, would have the internet breakout. So all internet breakout would go through the office, which means that it's got the filtering, the URL filtering, where you can go, where you can't go. But now with companies now expanding and having multiple sites, you'll find that the breakout is no longer at head office. The breakout is now each branch will have its own internet breakout. But because it's so expensive now to put a firewall in all of these branches, companies just use the default router with no firewall enabled, and then this does pose a vulnerability when it comes to secure internet. Again, I think we spoke about business Wi-Fi, especially when the guest Wi-Fi. So most companies have guest Wi-Fi for the guests when they arrive in the environment. Again, here it's very important to understand that who are you giving access to. So I think now with zero trust technologies, you just want to give someone access just to that one specific port, like application, right? They can't do anything else. They can't browse the internet. They can only access one specific application, just to make things more secure. And again, websites taken down by attackers. So this is another form of disrupting your organization. So what you might find is that all your business you're doing on the internet, you have an e-commerce website that you want to keep secure, but because now someone wants to do a malicious attack on you, they might bring your website down, because they know that you transact using the website. You and your customers transact using the website, and they'll do a denial of service attack, which means that they're sending a lot of information to your website, and your website won't be able to handle that much information, and then it would crash, meaning that your users can't access your services. So these types of challenges we've seen in the world, and we do have solutions that protect our users from these. And then the endpoint protection one. So this one, for me personally, it's something that I feel that companies need to ensure that they focus on, because endpoint means it's the user, right? So and the weakest link, I think Jay mentioned a stats. I think over 80% of attacks starts with the user. And I'll give you the examples again when I go through the phishing sites. People tend to click on things, right? You'll be surprised what people click on when it comes to the phishing attacks. So when you talk about endpoint protection, so when we spoke about secure remote working, we mentioned that people are now taking laptops with them home, and when they get home, they'll for example maybe switch off the VPN, and they might install unauthorized applications. So what happens with unauthorized applications is that they might want access to your to your device. They might want to become an admin of that device. I'll show you now when I talked on the right hand side about the application access. So we want to limit what the staff or what our employees can do on the laptops. And what you'll see is that what you'll find is some companies don't even use any sort of antivirus on the or antivirus patching on their laptops because it might be expensive, or they'll choose the free option. So the problem with the free option in antiviruses or these types of protection is that they can only do so much. I think it's key for us to understand that attackers are always trying to improve on a daily basis. They're always trying to come up with new strategies on a daily basis. So it's very important for our antiviruses as well to always stay up to speed with these attackers. So for example, an antivirus, what would happen is they will release a thing called maybe a patch or a signature. So what this is that, for example, from today onwards, it will say, okay, we know all the viruses that are out there in the wild from 12 a.m. this morning. Any of these viruses that we see, we will block, right? But then that patch, that patch will be released again after 1 month. So all the new viruses between today and in 1 month's time, the typical antivirus will not know about them. It will let them in and think it's a normal file, which means that your environment is now vulnerable. Hence, it's very important to when you're using these antiviruses or anti-malware, that you're using ones that are always seeking to improve. They've got AI capabilities, they've got machine learning, meaning that even if they don't know about a file, they can still look at that file and see the activity of that file, and it can block that malicious activity just because of the type of behavior a certain file has. So that's just another key thing when you are investing in an endpoint protection, which is for your laptops, your phones, etc. Right? And then regular patching. So I cannot stress this one enough. When we talk about patching, again, so an operating system, for example, like Windows 10, it will have vulnerabilities that are seen in the wild. So what do I mean by vulnerabilities? So an Internet Explorer or your Chrome or an application within your laptop, for example, might be outdated, and the hackers have seen a way to use that vulnerability to access personal information, right? So what would happen is the application owner or Microsoft or whoever would release an update or a patch to say, guys, here is a patch available. Please update your systems so that the malicious actors cannot use this against you, right? But what you'll find is that because most SMEs don't have IT resources or security resources, they are still sitting with machines that haven't been patched for over, I'll say over a year, but I've seen some that are still using Windows XP, right? So, and Windows XP has been discontinued, and there's no support from Microsoft. So patching your applications and your endpoints is non-negotiable, right? Because if a malicious actor is in your environment, they can do a lot of damage because they can now use these vulnerable machines. And then application access. So this one I actually put in just to give you guys an idea of the type of access that we give our applications, right? So I didn't want to use any other one, so I just took this one. So this is Amazon, right? So it's your Amazon app on your phone. So typically, what do I? So this is not mine, but it's just a picture from the internet. But if I was using Amazon, I would use it for shopping, right? So I'm looking for the latest firewall or etc. on Amazon, but now it's asking me for allow Amazon to access my microphone, my camera, my background application, and then using a cellular data. The reason why I'm bringing this up is, especially us as human beings, right? Whenever we install something, it always pops up with the T's and C's. I'm not sure if Jay has that as one of the poll question, but how many of us click on accept all or just continue just because we just want to get the application installed? I think there was another application that I wanted to use as an example. There was an application to change, I think, your face to a younger person, an older person. So typically, what you would give that access to is only your camera or your pictures, right? Because that's the only access it needs. But then it would also ask for microphone, access to your cellular data, or access to other things on your phone. But the question is, why does it want access to that? And people are installing untrusted applications on phones as well. But this is also bringing vulnerability to yourself, because some of us are using our phones for everything, whether it's emails, banking, etc. And you're giving these applications access to all of these things, right? So the risk is there for us as human beings, just to be wary of the type of applications we are installing on our devices, and the type of access we're giving it to, right? So this is a similar. So on the left, it's still the same challenges, but on the right-hand side, so a lot of people have been asking me, so okay, look, so how do I know if I've been part of any type of breach before? And I put a screenshot here, but I thought it would be just better for me just to show you on this website. So the website is called Have I Been Pawned or Owned? So basically, what this does, it checks if your email address has been part of any sort of breach. So you would put your email address. So I'm using a very old email address to see if I've been part of any sort of breach. So what will happen now? Okay, it will give you my results. So as you can see here, it's saying here I've been here's my breach history, and it gives me a proper timeline of where my details have been seen out there in the wild. So it says I've been part of 9 data breaches, has been found in multiple. So if I go to the first one here, so this is a key one, right? LinkedIn. So LinkedIn was, I think, compromised in 2021, first half of 2021, where 400 million records were stolen, and I was part of. My details were part of that, right? So what was there, my education levels, etc. All of these, so all this information, personal information, that is now out there on the internet. So I'll go to Twitter again. In early 2003, I was part of this breach, and then here's my information that was out there on the web. So again, so this just goes through all the different types of attacks I've been part of. But I think where I'm trying to go with this, because people will say, okay, I'm part of that. So what does that mean? So if we look here, what was compromised? It was email addresses and passwords. So what happens is that this information is typically shared on the dark web. So think of the dark web as a marketplace where people are selling bad things or illegal activity, right? So they'll be selling this information on the internet, and then what happens is whoever gets this information So they will try the different emails and passwords for, like, they will run a script, which is an automatic um, function whereby it will just search the web for my details, for my name, my email address, and see where they can access. So if I had the same username and password for my Facebook, they could able to get into that. If I had the same email address and password for my banking, they could get into that, right? So it's very important to be aware of websites like this that do exist to see if you've been part of any breach. But it's very important to also change your password on a regular basis, and don't use the same password on multiple applications or systems. So stay safe out there on the web. But getting back to my presentation, so I thought, let me just put this as an example. Most of us would see, okay, this is Mark Zuckerberg. I'm not going to click on this link. I've won $1.5 million. It sounds wrong, right? I would just delete this, or I would mark it as a spam, or send it straight to the junk mail. But if I were to give this to 100 people, or send this email to 100 people, there'll be one person who will click on this email because they want to find out more. Did they actually win 1.5 million rand? As funny as that might be, it boils down to education again. We need to educate ourselves and our users that these type of attacks, they're very common, and that they shouldn't click on information that they're not sure sure about. So this one was a more obvious one, right? But then what you'll find is that, so this one here it comes from Outlook, Microsoft, and it's saying that unusual activity from a specific website. Please click here to verify. So what you're gonna do, or what a typical user would do, they will review recent activity, and then by clicking on that, right, it's going to ask them for username and password, which is your now corporate username and password to log into the system, and then they will take that information, and then they will try and log in and see how far they can get using your personal credentials. So this one is different from the previous one. In what way? Because now it's mimicking something that's safe, that a user would work with, because a user will see here. I'm just going to switch on my pointer. So a user would see here that this comes from Outlook.com. So they associate Outlook with a legitimate application, and then they might click on that. So again, it boils down to educating our users that if they feel that they're not sure about something, always reach out to IT or your security, or just ignore the email. And then I think one of my favorite ones, if I can say that, is Netflix. So most of us on this call, we use Netflix. And in order for us to use Netflix, we pay via our credit cards or via our debit cards. So this one is purely off the credit card information. So now, again, typical. It looks legitimate, right? It looks like it's an email. It's got the logos. Even the spelling is correct, because we always tell users, look out for the spelling. Does it look like it comes from that specific provider? So if they look up here, it's support@netflixteam.com. Might look legitimate. And then, but the key thing is, as soon as they click update now, it's going to ask them obviously for their name, credit card, etc., and then and then the user's given away the username and the credit card information for the bad guys to try and do malicious activity with those details. And the funny thing about these type of phishing attacks, because they're so incredibly well written, right? Because I'll fall in for one of these back a few years ago, where I had lost my iPhone. So what I did, I went onto the website. I put there that my iPhone was lost, and I put my alternative details for someone to get hold of me. So they sent me an SMS on my alternate number with the link to iCloud for me to actually track my phone, because it said it found my phone. Because I was in such a state, and I wasn't thinking twice. I clicked on the link. It took me to an iCloud site. I didn't verify. I didn't look. And then when I put my details in, because I was so excited that I'm going to get my phone back, it didn't take my details for the first 2 or 3 attempts. And by the time my 4th attempt, I think, so it had redirected me now to the normal iCloud website. And when I got in there, all my phones were gone. My watch, my phones, they just deleted everything. Because now what they can do, because they're details of my iCloud, they can remove my phone, and then they can just reset the phone and then just repurpose it or reuse it for other malicious activities. So what I'm trying to get across here is that the people that we are dealing with are very sophisticated and highly intelligent individuals. Okay, now just to bring it back home, I think the reality, because you would have seen in the news, right? So I can't really mention the names of the companies that are being a part of this, but it's public knowledge, right? You'll see there's a pension fund that was recently hit by a ransomware attack that affected normal South Africans. So the stats that we're using now are no longer stats from America or from abroad. We are talking about attacks that are hitting South Africa. I think last I checked, South Africa was the 3rd most targeted country in the world when it comes to these sorts of attacks. So I want this message to really hit home, because we are under attack. And again, it's not about them focusing on enterprise or big companies. Everyone can fall victim to these cyber attacks, and it's very important for us as Vodacom and for you as our customers and partners that we work together to try and improve our security posture. And that leads me to my next point, which is Vodacom security. So what's next? So no one wants to be next. So for me, I would say, so start the conversation, whether it's with us, Vodacom, or with your current provider. Start the conversation. Have a value-driven assessment. So what do I mean by this assessment? So the objective of these types of assessments is just to know what's happening in your environment. So typically what would happen is that the assessment will run the assessment. It will give you a list of your assets, what's happening in your environment. But the key one is finding vulnerabilities and to prioritize how to mitigate against these vulnerabilities. Again, because I think I did mention this before, is that you'll find that in some environments, the customer might be using Windows XP, for example. Like I mentioned earlier on, Windows XP has been discontinued by Microsoft, and there's no support, right, being serviced there. So if a malicious actor were to get into your network, or a user using that machine is browsing the internet, and they might be part of some sort of an attack, because of those vulnerabilities on that machine, the hackers can get into your environment via that machine. And then what they can do, it's called escalated privilege. So they can come in as a normal user, but they can change their status from a normal user to a super admin or global admin of that environment. They can scan your network, they can encrypt your devices, they can do anything they want, right? Because of these vulnerable machines. So the point of the assessment is for us to find these machines and to prioritize which of these machines we need to look into. And then some of our customers want us to do like the full-blown penetration test, whereby they want to do the penetration test where we actually exploit these vulnerabilities, meaning that you're giving us permission to come into your environment, act like the bad guys, scan your environment, try and access your information from outside and from inside, to see how far we can get if we were to be the bad guys. So it's very important to have an assessment. So some people might ask, so how often must I do an assessment? So for me, at least once a quarter or two times a year minimum, because like I mentioned earlier, the bad guys don't sleep. They're always looking for better ways to evade the security systems, and they're always looking, especially now with the rise of AI, right? I think most of us are using AI to do to assist us. I think that's the right word, with some of our work functions. But the cyber criminals are also using AI to try and improve their methods and to try and evade systems. And then I'll just put a snippet here of an important tenet of POPIA. Like I just said, regular assessments is very key, and then staff training. I cannot emphasize how important staff training is. And staff training for me is not the video that's 1 hour, whereby a user can just drag the progress bar all the way to the end, and then they've marked that, and then they marked that as a tick box that they've done. We need to find better ways to train our users, make it more fun, make it shorter, make the questions more relevant, and then the questions must always change, right? So that a user doesn't just click next, and until they find the right answers. The more fun the training is, the better the behavior of the user. It changes, and then it improves their security maturity as well. So speaking of that, so our portfolio, so our Vodacom security portfolio focuses on 3 pillars, which is secure employee, secure connection, and managed security services. And then we have our cyber analytics at the end. So our security portfolio is based on the NIST framework, which I don't want to go into that. That's just a session for another day if you want to deep dive into how we go about assisting our customers. But for example, I'll just give a few examples from the section. We spoke about identity management. It's key for you as a customer or a partner to understand what our users are doing, who's doing what, when, and where, right? We need to, whether it's our internal users or a third party, we always need to be on top of who's doing what, right? You want to know your risk score. Just reach out to our team. They can sit down with you, go through what you currently have at the moment, and then they'll give you a risk score. Mobile threat defense. So we've got different products when it comes to mobile threat defense, and some of our partners are listed there below. So the likes of your Trend Micro, your Lookout, that does our mobile threat defense, and then email and web security. So we've built bundles when it comes to email and web security. So there's a solution that we have that does your email, your web, your endpoint security all in one. So instead of using different providers for different things, you just come to us. We'll give you that bundle, and which covers you from those different aspects, right? And then cyber awareness. I mentioned earlier on that we do need a different way to train our users, an intelligent way to train our users to change their behavior when it comes to cybersecurity. So we've got a solution there called CyberSafe. And then we've got unified endpoint management uh, for SMEs who are rolling out the laptops or phones to their staff and want to ensure that this is managed in the proper way. So we do assist with that as well. Apologies, I'm just going through this a little bit faster now just because of time. And then secure connection. So I think this is another important one I mentioned earlier on. So when it comes to zero trust, so zero trust in a nutshell basically just means that you don't trust anyone, whether it's top management or someone there in the basement. Anyone needs to connect and be verified every time they connect to a system, and then they only have access to what they need to have access to, right? And then firewalls, I mentioned earlier on that if you're connecting any any place where you're connecting from, it needs to have some sort of perimeter security, which is our managed firewall. And then the managed security services pillar, I think, is very important for our customers who don't have the resources, right? Whether it's IT or security resources, you want someone else to look after to do your managed endpoint. So we would install, we would manage it, we will give you regular reports of what's happening in your endpoint environment, same as the firewall. And then we've got our VB which is part of the global Vodafone SOC, which we do incident response. If something happens, we do incident response. We do threat intelligence for you, and we've got 24 by 7 monitoring of your environment. And then we do the different SIEM platforms. And then we've got cyber customer experience analytics, a program called Cyber Hub. So what this does, it takes all of these systems that we are providing to our customers. It gives a score of where we think the customer maturity currently sits, and where the customer needs to improve. Right. So this is just something that we assist our customers with as well. And this is just some of the comments from the different providers when it comes to Vodacom, Vodafone, managed security services. I'm not, and yeah. So thank you for that. I'll be handing it over back to Jay and team for Q&As.
Thanks so much, Luke. I think that was a very insightful session that you actually did with us today. I know I learned quite a few new things as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to educate us. I think just with regards to what we want to do next, I think we want to actually see the results of the polls.
Okay.
So thank you to everyone who did actually answer the polls. So maybe we can just bring the polls up quickly just to see exactly how the polls came out. So when we look at the polls, I think it's very, very interesting to see the first one with regards to how confident are you in your business's current cybersecurity measures. So it's good to see that a lot of businesses are actually quite confident, and some are somewhat confident. I think the guys that are a little less confident, please let us reach out to you and let us try to help you out as well. I will make an announcement after the polls as well, just to hopefully put a smile on everyone's face. But yeah, next poll. So what do you believe is the biggest cybersecurity threat to SMEs today? So I think the first one that did come up was phishing emails, which is definitely the case at the moment. And the second thing is the lack of employee training. With weak passwords and ransomware attacks, I think that is something that can be overcome quite easily, as Luke's did mention today. We can go to the next poll question. On the priority gate, so which cybersecurity area would you like to improve in your business? I think data protection and backups has come up as number one. which is a very interesting thing because, when it comes to data protection and backups, it's basically not just protecting yourself, but also protecting your customers. So we need to ensure that we can help you guys do that. And we do have ways to really ensure that this is put in place. And staff awareness and training is something else that's very important for you guys, which we can also assist with today. Can go to the next poll question, which is which of the following cybersecurity solutions does your business currently use? So it's good to see that a lot of the businesses do have firewalls because firewalls do protect you against a lot of your threats today. Also, having antiviruses and anti-malware software is also quite good. But I think as time goes by, with our fast forward series, we'll continuously educate you guys more on what the different types of technologies are actually about and how you can actually implement it and what would be best suitable for your business. Please also keep in mind you can reach out to our VHub one-on-one advisory service as well, where we can really get a better hold and understanding of your business so we can really advise you on what would be best to implement at what stage in your business's life cycle. So, on to the last one. You know, if you're not currently using cybersecurity solutions, what is the main reason? And I think a lot has come out to, it's being too expensive. So that does come up as number one. But what we'd like to tell you is we've actually built a suite of SME solutions that can actually really provide your customers or provide you with, solutions that are cost effective. I mean, some of our solutions are as cheap as 16 Rand per month. So you are able to actually protect users for as little as 16 Rand a month. I mean, if you look at it, it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So we can definitely, assist you with that and really take away the stigma of things being too expensive by really introducing you into some solutions. But I think this is just a great insight on how the polls have actually been answered. And one of the things that I want to actually just say is, I looked at one of Simon Sinek's quotes. He mentioned, dream big, start small, but most of all, start. And as Vodacom business, we really want to help SMEs really start this journey. So for everyone that has joined the webinar today, we will be giving everyone a 1 month free lookout license, which is basically a security license that you can use for the month and really get to understand the technology and understand how it works. And if you are happy with it, it's something that you can continuously use by renewing the contract after the monthly period. It can be month to month or it can be, yearly. That's up to you. But I think it's good to just actually get a good look and feel of, the actual platform and how it works. So that's something that we will be doing with you guys, or will be providing through to you guys today. So please ensure that the information that you did fill in for contact details is the correct information so we can actually share that with you. So we will be sharing those licenses with you. And I think one other thing that I want to just get to is, the questions. There are one or two questions that have been asked, which I think, will be important for Luke to just give his opinion on. So one of the questions that has been asked is third-party access overlooked because it doesn't happen frequently? Or is it because cybersecurity specialists have not figured out how to work around it?
I think it's a good question, Jay. I think it's overlooked. Firstly, because what you'll find is that most companies they focus on their internal security. For example, we might have our own anti-malware, antivirus, anti-email, etc., etc. But then a third party might come in, maybe to do an audit, or they might come in to do bookkeeping, like I mentioned earlier on. But because we don't know what they have on their specific system, we give them access to the network. They might be working for a week. So making sure that they only have access to specific to a specific environment in your network is very key. So this is where zero trust comes in. So zero trust basically doesn't trust anyone. It will only give that third party access to almost like a portal where they only have access to click on one thing, whether their machine is vulnerable or not. It can't do anything on the network. So I wouldn't say that cybersecurity specialists haven't figured it out. So technologies like zero trust do combat these types of risks.
Okay, great. Thank you for that insight. Another question that was asked is, what is the first sign that my business is under attack? How easy or difficult is it to identify if I've been compromised?
Okay, so that's a fun one. Do you know why? Because the first sign is when you've been attacked is that you won't be able to access some of your information. For example, so if you were part of some sort of ransomware, you wouldn't be able to open up any of your files because they'll be encrypted, and there'll be a message there that you cannot access these files until you pay 35 Bitcoin, for example. And then just to follow up on that, how do I know if I've been? But sometimes the bad guys don't even let you know yet. They might be in your environment for over a year. They could just be sitting there scanning to see if they can't find any valuable information. Once they do, they'll let you know. So it's very important to have the vulnerability assessments or the scanning to see if there's any vulnerabilities firstly in your environment, or if there's anyone sitting in your environment doing any malicious activity.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke. And then a last question, I think just for the webinar today is, what do you think, or what do you need to check first to check if it is a phishing attack?
So when I went to those three examples earlier on, what you'll find is the first one was very well, not I don't want to say obvious, but it comes from Mark Zuckerberg, for example, at gmail.com or whatever it is, right? So that's just a dead giveaway on that one. But it's very key, for example, because now of the complexity and the intelligence of new AI software. Let's say you work in the finance division and you get an email from your MD or your CEO saying, please pay this urgently, I need it now, or else, so the warning signs there is firstly the urgency. Why is it urgent? And then if you guys have particular processes, why is it bypassing our particular services? Why is it asking me to log in with my credit card? So for all those other reasons, because the email might be legitimate coming from Vodacom, but just look out for signs. And they're always trying to push on some agenda, whether it's urgency or it's the CEO, which is a scare tactic now because it's someone senior and you don't want to lose your job. So there's different signs to identify these sophisticated phishing attacks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Luke. And look, there are other questions that have been asked, which will be answered in the chat itself. But I just want to thank Luke's again so much. I think one of the key takeaways, and it's another quote that I can actually refer back to, is if people like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll do business with you. And what we want to do is really ensure that your customers can trust you. And that's part of what this Fast Forward series will be about. That quote is from Zig Ziglar. But yeah, thank you again, Luke, so much. And guys, I know times can be tough. It does seem like, things can get quite rocky with the economy, but there's always an upside. And we as Vodacom really want to help you in every form and way possible. Not necessarily just with, your technology needs, but also financial needs, as we do have financial solutions that can help you. I'd like to leave everyone today, though, with a final quote from Henry Ford. So, when everything seems to be going against you, remember that the plane takes off against the wind, not with it. So, thank you, everyone, for your time today. And I hope you have an amazing day forward. And we look forward to hosting you for the next event. Thank you.